Let's return now to that jobs number out today. A real surprise for watchers of the economy, for the markets and all concerned. Let's bring in Economics Professor at George Washington University, Professor Steven Hamilton. Stephen, thanks for your time as always. That 3.7%, what did you make of it? The number dropped only 13 minutes ago.
Yeah, I refreshed my phone and I went, whoa. So, look, that's pretty wild. So I think, look, we have to, on one hand, say month to month, the number's going to jump around a little bit. So be careful that this isn't sort of definitive. But, I think when the number jumped up to 4.1 last time, I think a lot of people felt, okay, this is a sign that the Reserve Bank has maybe done enough and that the labour market is starting to cool as, demand is being pulled out of the economy, which needs to happen to get inflation down to the target band. So that's how people felt half an hour ago. Now that unemployment is back down to 3.7, I mean, that is like historically low. And, if that does indicate what's going on in the labour market, just how hot the labour market is, I would say that's very concerning for the Reserve Bank. And anyone who thought that rates were going to go down by the end of the year, I mean, that's become a lot less likely.
Yeah, and I guess Governor Bullock has been vindicated with her comments. She's not ruling anything in or out. So a rate rise is more likely off the back of that number?
Oh, there's no doubt. Well, a rate rise, as I talked to you last time on this program, you have to keep all options in scope. I think that the thing we need to think about here is interest rates are more than a percentage point below where they are in other countries, right? So the Reserve Bank started very late. It did a hell of a lot less than other central banks. It sort of pulled off the brake earlier, going like this, I hope I've done enough to control inflation. And when unemployment is 3.7%, that makes you think, well, maybe they actually pulled the foot off the brake too quickly. Maybe they haven't done enough, right? So ultimately, inflation coming down isn't the Reserve Bank's goal. The Reserve Bank's goal is to get inflation sustainably into the target range of 2 to 3%, and we're not there yet. Ultimately, they want to get to the midpoint, which is 2.5%, and currently they don't expect to get there until 2026. If unemployment is at 3.7, that just means the likelihood they'll get there without doing more has just gone down.
Can you explain for those of us who wonder, so in simple terms, if you can, why can't the RBA get to that target band and still keep unemployment at these lows?
Yeah, I think one thing that you worry about is if markets are too tight, and it's not just the labour market, but it's all sorts of markets, if there's too much demand in the economy based on the supply that the economy can deliver, that pushes prices up. And that's where we get inflation. That's what's happened over the last couple of years. The concern is that begins to kind of cycle, right? That the prices rise, workers push for bigger wage increases, then firms pass those higher wages on in higher inflation. And that kind of cycle increases the kind of inflationary wave and makes it a lot harder for then the Reserve Bank to have to jack up interest rates to try and restrain that demand. So what we don't want to happen is we don't want this snowballing, right? We've been trying to avoid that. That's why the Reserve Bank needed to get on it quickly. It needed to get on it decisively. If unemployment is at 3.7, that suggests we haven't restrained things enough, right? So I think ultimately one thing you really want to avoid, and Jerome Powell mentioned this morning, the governor mentioned this the other day, you really don't want to get inflation into the kind of psychology. You don't want people to expect that high inflation to be permanent. And the longer it lasts, the less quickly it comes down, the more likely it becomes entrenched, and the harder it'll be later if we actually want to get back to target.
Professor Steven Hamilton, thanks so much as always. I do want to talk to you about nuclear energy. I know you've made some very interesting points on that. We'll talk to you hopefully next week on that and we can elaborate.
I dodged a bullet, Kieran.
Yeah, we'll do it next week.